Hello, my dear friends, and welcome back to Breath Journey. I sincerely hope that after our discussions on the wisdom of non-possession, you've begun to feel the lightness that comes from letting go of things that are not truly yours. This lightness doesn't come from acquiring anything new. It comes from releasing one thing: the need to hold on. Today, we are going to dive deep into a very specific kind of burden. A burden I see commonly carried by people who have accumulated much life experience, people who have navigated more than half a century and built their empires, big or small. That burden is the overwhelming need to prove oneself. Please, take a deep breath with me and close your eyes for a moment. I want you to look deep within, the formidable structure you've built over your life, your home, your career, your relationships, your achievements. All of it is admirable. We have strived, we have fought, we have accomplished. But now I want you to be honest with yourself and ask, is there a shadow following that formidable structure? What is that shadow? It's not other people. It is the constant anxiety, the pervasive feeling of never being enough, the relentless pressure to perpetually guard your image, to guard what you've said, to guard what you've done, to guard what others might think of you. Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever walked into a room, a family gathering, or a social event, and immediately your mind, almost automatically, unconsciously, starts calculating? What should I say so they know who I am? How should I behave to maintain my standing in this group? Do I need to recount that success story one more time? It's as if we've spent a lifetime building a towering wall of reputation, and now we have to spend the rest of our lives standing on the edge of that wall, terrified of slipping. The higher we climb, the stronger the wind blows, and the greater the anxiety becomes. The truth is, what we call pride, or the ego's demanding need for validation, is not who you are. It's merely a suit of armor you put on to feel safe in the world. You believe that armor protects you from judgment, from being ordinary, from being unknown. But I ask you, is that armor truly protecting you? Or is it simply draining the very life force from your soul? It turns achievements into invisible handcuffs. It turns wisdom into a contest where you must constantly prove you are right. Over my many years of working with dear friends over 50 here in the States, I've recognized this as a common challenge. We have achieved too much, and therefore we are too afraid to lose status, to lose respect, to lose the very title we have worn for so long. A friend of mine, a very successful former CEO, once shared with me, I spent my life climbing the mountain, and then I realized that staying there was more exhausting than the climb itself. I constantly had to prove that I deserved that position, that reputation. I thought retirement would be freedom, but it just shifted the arena. Now I have to prove I'm a valuable retiree. You see, the anxiety lies not in lacking enough, but in the desperate need to hold tightly to what you already have, including your self-image. This is why so many people in this phase of life, instead of finding serenity, are trapped in a vicious cycle of defense and protection. And this is where the Buddhist tradition offers a powerful liberation. It doesn't tell you to become poor materially. It teaches you to become rich spiritually through letting go. Letting go of that most fundamental, deep-seated need, the need to prove today, we will unlock the philosophy of non-possessive humility. Vosohu Kiyamha. This is not self-deprecation, nor is it weakness. It is the ultimate strength of a soul that has nothing left to defend. We often think humility is speaking softly, bowing your head, or hiding your talents. That is false modesty, another subtle form of possession, possessing the image of the good person. Non-possessive humility is different, and it is not an act of lowering yourself. It is a state where the mind is no longer the center. It is when we are completely untethered from the ego's demand to be validated. When someone praises you, you smile, but your chest doesn't inflate. When someone criticizes you, you also smile, but your heart doesn't contract. Only the strongest person can be truly humble, because only when you have nothing left to protect can you truly bow without fear of loss. The weak must defend, the truly strong have nothing to prove. This is an incredible liberation, and it is the path to true serenity in these precious years of your life. We will explore this in detail through the ancient stories and timeless teachings of the Buddha, hold this stillness with me, and let us continue this journey together. We have established that the greatest burden we carry is not the actual responsibility, but the inner need to constantly guard and prove our worth. We have turned our achievements into invisible handcuffs. Now we will delve into the wisdom of non-possession to truly understand why letting go of the need to prove is the ultimate power. This is where the Buddha's teachings shine with liberating brilliance. Let us begin with a story from the Buddhist scriptures, a narrative that has awakened millions to the subtle trap of intellectual pride. There was a time when a certain monk was very diligent in his practice and deeply knowledgeable about the Dharma. Yet he carried a subtle arrogance. He always wanted to debate and prove his knowledge was superior to others. He grew irritated when people failed to recognize or agree with his insights. One day the Buddha asked him, "Monk, what troubles you most?" The monk replied, "Blessed One, what frustrates me most is when people do not understand my teachings, or when they express doubt about my wisdom, I have to expend great effort to help them see the truth." The Buddha smiled and spoke a simple, yet profound truth. Your greatest enemy is not the one who doubts you, but the one within you who constantly wants to prove them wrong. Ponder that for a moment. When you try to prove, you are placing your inner peace into the hands of others. You are effectively telling the world, my value depends on your approval. And this is impossible. You cannot control the thoughts or words of others. Therefore, the fight to prove yourself is a battle that can never be won. It is ignorance cloaked in wisdom, a grasping at the idea of the wise me or the special me. It is the very need to win the argument, to stand above others, that chokes your serenity. Now let us turn to a famous classic story illustrating absolute humility, showcasing the pure power of non-grasping. On one occasion, a man consumed by intense anger came before the Buddha and used the foulest language imaginable to curse and revile him. He did this, perhaps, simply to relieve his own emotional torment. The Buddha merely listened in absolute stillness and calm. When the man was exhausted, having spent his fury, and finally fell silent, the Buddha gently asked, "If someone brings a gift to another person, and that person refuses to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The angry man retorted, "Obviously, it belongs to the one who brought it." The Buddha then said, "In the same way you have brought me your ill will, and your rage I choose not to accept it. Therefore, it still belongs entirely to you." You see, that is more than just a lesson in composure. That is the pinnacle of non-possessive humility. He had no need to win, no need to defend, no need to prove his nobility or innocence. He was completely unbound by honor, by the image of a Buddha, because he owned neither the praise nor the blame. He was entirely free. When you stop possessing the compliments, the criticisms have no entry point. Power comes from realizing this. You are not the story of your success or failure. You are the one witnessing that story. Let us use a metaphor from nature to anchor this deep understanding. Think of the ocean. The ocean is where all the rivers flow. The ocean never boasts of its depth or its expanse. It doesn't show off the treasures it holds beneath. It never tries to lift itself up to become a mountain. It always stays low, humbling itself beneath all the rivers. And precisely because it occupies the lowest position, all the waters naturally flow to it, making it eternally vast and great. Non-possessive humility is the same. It does not diminish you, it makes you steadier and larger. Because when your mind is no longer striving to be higher than anyone else, it becomes spacious enough to contain everything. Success, failure, praise, and blame. This is absolute freedom. Nothing to defend, nothing to prove. In the next section, we will shift from philosophy to practical action. How to apply this letting go in your daily relationships and in moments of everyday tension. Hold this stillness and walk with me. We have clearly seen the paradox of power. True strength is not found in grasping, but in releasing the need to prove. When you no longer own the concept of honor or status, no one can take them from you. Now, the biggest question is, how do we apply this wisdom of non-possession to our daily lives, right where we are sitting? Practicing this humility does not require you to become a monk in a cave. It demands a subtle shift in perception, an internal realignment. At this stage of life, we desperately need internal stillness. We no longer have time to waste on the ego's useless battles. We need to shift that precious energy from possessing achievements to possessing experience and presence. When you stop needing to prove, you are freed from the three greatest energy drains, the very things that have exhausted us for decades. The waste of comparison. Why is he respected more than me? Why do my children listen to that friend more than me? The need to be better, to be right, is a hungry flame that never extinguishes. When you let go of this need, jealousy, envy, and pointless competition vanish. Instead, you find joy in the success of others, because their success does not diminish your worth. The waste of defense. I must protect my viewpoint to the bitter end. We have spent far too much time defending old ideas and beliefs. But the truth is, all viewpoints, all beliefs are temporary and limited. When you stop defending, you create the space to learn and wisdom begins to bloom. The truly humble person knows that all words are finite. The waste of convincing. Everyone must know what I have accomplished. You no longer have to carry that invisible business card everywhere you go. Your presence speaks for itself. You do not need to display your achievements. Experience has permeated your being, creating a natural solidity and calm. Have you ever felt this in a conversation with your children or friends? You are only listening to wait for the moment to interrupt and offer your own advice. That is not listening. That is a form of possession. Possessing the position of the know-it-all or the wise one. Non-possessive humility teaches us a valuable lesson. Take the position of the eternal student, especially with the younger generation. Instead of saying, I did this 30 years ago and you must do it this way, try saying, that's fascinating. I've never looked at it that way. Can you tell me more about that? The moment you let go of the need to be the teacher, you open the door to genuine connection. Your children, your friends, they don't need perfect advice. They need a safe space to be themselves without judgment or constant correction. When you let go of the ownership of your experience, you become the best kind of friend. A listener without agenda. Let's return to my metaphor. Think of the deep well. The water that flows from the well is not trying to please anyone or to prove its depth. It flows because it is overflowing. The water simply pours out naturally. The humble person does not try to help or show off. They are simply naturally overflowing with usefulness and wisdom. When you share, your words do not carry the weight of an ego desperate for recognition. They are light, yet they possess 1,000 times more power. When you do good, it doesn't create an obligation to be repaid. It is liberation. This is absolute freedom. Nothing to defend, nothing to prove. I invite you to practice this in the coming week. Take the lowest seat in the conversation, the seat of a silence, of deep listening. Let others shine. See what happens to your energy when you are not carrying the burden of the ego. We have journeyed deeply through the philosophy of non-possessive humility. We have realized that arrogance is not strength, but a fearful grasping at self-image. Conversely, true humility is a state of absolute freedom, a state that has no need to prove, no need to defend, and no need to win. Now we must connect this to the ultimate goal of the spiritual path, true wisdom. People often separate virtues, thinking that wisdom is one thing and humility is another. But for the Buddha, they are two sides of the same coin of liberation. Wisdom is not something to acquire. It is something that appears when we subtract preconceptions, subtract fear, subtract the craving to prove, subtract all the dust layers of the ego. Then wisdom doesn't come from learning. It comes from the stillness of the mind, and that stillness is humility. Think about the smart person versus the truly wise person. The smart person is often confident in what they know and always ready to argue to defend it. The truly wise person, however, knows that all knowing is limited and therefore they maintain a humble silence. Here is the core truth. Non-possessive humility is the gateway to non-possessive wisdom. When you are no longer grasping the idea of I know, you truly open your heart to seeing without naming, seeing without comparing, seeing without attachment to right or wrong. Like the lake, if the lake insists on holding on to the reflection of the clouds, it will never be calm. It will churn, it will fight for the image. But when the lake lets go of the need to process anything on its surface, it becomes still. And only in that stillness can it reflect the true sky. The ego wants to know so it can control. Wisdom only wants to see so it can let go. The Buddha's humility was not a performance. It was a profound reality. He didn't need to declare himself enlightened. He simply lived a life without a shadow. He had dissolved into the light, and that light is humility. Humility does not remove us from life. Conversely, it allows us to live deeper in every moment. The wise person does not avoid suffering. They look directly at it. They do not seek peace in the mountains, but find peace amidst the world's noise. Then we no longer need to try to let go, because when you see clearly, there is nothing left to grasp. Everything is allowed to pass like wind across the surface of the lake, rippling gently and dissolving. Not out of coldness, but out of the understanding that everything that arises must also pass away. That is why the Buddha called enlightenment waking up, not achieving. Because we don't achieve something new, we simply wake up from what is not real. In the end, every path, every spiritual search leads to the same point: letting go. Not letting go to lose, but letting go to realize there was nothing to hold on to in the first place. Not abandoning the world, but viewing the world through the lens of freedom. The person who has everything is not the one who grasps it all, but the one who needs nothing more to be whole. Wholeness lies not in material possessions, but in a mind that is fully present. If you ever feel tired from holding on to too much, holding the bomb, holding the relationship, holding the image, holding even a forced smile, try releasing it, if only for a single breath. You don't need to drop everything, just stop clutching. With just a little bit of non-grasping, we begin to breathe again. That breath is the definition of freedom. Let us breathe in non-possessive humility. Let us breathe out the need to prove. And in that moment, we understand that serenity is no longer a result. It is the very nature of every living moment. If you found this topic helpful, please share it with anyone you know who is carrying the burden of expectation. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel as we continue this journey of inner liberation. Next week, we will conclude our series on non-possession with our final and most essential topic: true wisdom, when the mind stops trying to know and simply sees. Are you ready to let go of everything you think you know to discover pure reality?